I actually wrote the book 10 years ago, but I decided it just wasn't time to write it. I think I had to go through my own process of healing and just better understanding of the things I was going to share. And so I just didn't feel prompted to release the book before now. But I'm glad I did, because it's at a different place now, and I think it'll really speak to people strongly than it would had I released it 10 years ago. And so I'm at a good place today, and God has done a lot in my life, and the last chapter of the book also helps to kind of bring it in full circle with where I am today after being married to Pamela, and God has blessed me with that relationship, and so it's the timing is right. Well, Ben's story is Ben's story, but there's a lot of Ben's story that's my story as well. I just changed a lot of the circumstances, but I'd say about half of it relates to my personal story, and other is truths that I know that take place in other people's lives and have taken place in other people's lives. So the number of truths and spiritual nuggets in this is pretty significant, and I think that you'll find it will encourage your soul and really encourage you in your walk with God. The proof of the pudding was whether my wife would read the book, and so we actually read the book together every morning, and she would say, "What's happening in Ben's life today? Let's read your book." And so, that was an indication that I felt like the book was good enough to release if my wife liked it. There's no doubt marriages will be helped as they read this book, and if they'll read it together, they'll find that there's a lot of principles in there that they're able to gain a lot of wisdom from and be able to apply in their own life. I think business owners will find this book encouraging and find a lot of truth and application in their own life, because a lot of the things Ben goes through are things that most business owners will go through, and the lessons he learned in that are lessons that you and I will learn as business owners. I think anybody should read this book because it's, written for both male and female, business owner, workplace person, just about any person in whatever stage of life they're in, especially if you're in adversity. And a lot of the things that are talked about in the book relate to someone that's going through a crisis, and what should they do, and what should they learn from the crisis, and understanding also about how our past, affect how we turn out as adults, and a lot of the habits that we have come as a result of childhood wounds, and a lot of the hang-ups we have come as a result of childhood wounds. And so being able to understand that, and then I unpack it further to understand that many spiritual strongholds that happen in our life are a result of wounds from childhood as well. And so this is a book that has that level of truth in it, and I think that people will find that particularly helpful. Ben learns a very important lesson in the story about what it means to be a son versus a slave, and of course that's applicable to daughters as well. And he really understands for the first time what it means to have an experiential time with God as his father, and not just living as a slave. And I think that's a hard one for most of us to understand how to walk in. And so you'll be encouraged as Ben walks through this part of his life and what he learns from this, and how you and I can apply that same truth to our lives. There's a part 2 of the book that's not fictional, and it's really teaching about what Ben learned, what's the spiritual basis for all the things brought up in the story. And so part 2 takes you through the biblical basis for the story and how to really apply the scriptures to the story, and what Ben learned and how you can learn the same lessons. I think this book is a very easy read. You can read it really in a couple of sessions of sitting down. It's a very short book, but it's loaded with spiritual truths and nuggets that you can apply in your life. And so I hope it's a blessing to everybody.